Alright, so some things you may need before you start the health check. Obviously a chicken, a magnifying glass to see the mites and lice when we get to that part, warm water and a paper towel to clean the chicken's vent, nail clippers in case the nails are too long, and a notebook and writing utensil to write things down that you may want to know later. The basics. Start at the head and work your way down to their legs and vent. Be gentle. If they won't open their mouth, you can check later. While sitting, you want to check their head first and be ready for squirming and escape attempts. Things to notice before you start are flab in the front, right here in front of their breastbone. It shouldn't be too flabby. On my chicken, she's a dual purpose, so I would expect some fat to be right there, but it should be pretty firm, which it is, so that's good. You want to look around for any abnormal colored poop. Good healthy poo looks like that. It shouldn't be bloody, and there shouldn't be any green or diarrhea and no oozy black, so that's healthy. Then some things you want to think about your flock is the egg production. Has it been where it should be? Are they eating and drinking the normal amount? And that's about it. And then you want to start. So I usually start at the comb, the red thing on the top of their head. She doesn't really like me to touch it, but it should be pretty firm and a nice bright red like she has here. Then she'll let me see her face. You'll want to look at her eyes. They're bright and beady and they're responsive, like when I move my hand in and out, like she's looking at them, the pupils are going in and out. Just a healthy movement. Her waddle down here, if she'll let me see it, it's about the same color as her comb. They both look bright and healthy red. Now her mouth, she usually doesn't let me look in her mouth, so sometimes you have to be pretty sneaky about how you do it. But when you look in their mouth, there shouldn't be any sores or swelling. She's not going to let me do it. But if you can get a look in there, it's nice. The mouth isn't the most telling part. You also want to look up their nostrils. Now, I can't get a very good view here, but as you can probably tell, there's nothing up there. So her nostrils are good to go. Then if you just want to put your head near her, or even from like a 6-inch distance, you shouldn't be able to hear her breathing. There shouldn't be any coughing sounds or wheezing or anything like that. So she's good. She's making a lot of noise, but that's because she doesn't like this very much. That's alright. Next you want to look at the keel. Now I'll have to flip her around so that you can see the keel, which is their breastbone. Now on her you can't see it because she's a dual purpose bird and she has a lot of meat right in here, but on a lot of egg layers you'll be able to see a bone that goes right down the center of their chest. Now you might be able to feel the keel, like right in here I can feel it a little bit, especially down here towards the bottom you'll be able to feel it. It shouldn't be sticking out and like there should be meat and feathers around it. If it's sticking out, that's pretty bad. Their feathers, especially along their back and tail, their neck, they should be really smooth, shouldn't really be any missing. Some of them may be a little like out of place from grooming and the other chickens pecking at them a little bit because of the natural pecking order. And especially our chickens, our dominant hen just died, so there's been some outbreaks trying to gain dominance. Now she looks pretty good. Her tail's in good form. The feathers on her neck are good. So her feathers are all pretty good. Then the skin, I think that's one of the hardest things to check for, because especially on birds like her where she just has so many feathers, you have to get down in it. It's a little hard to do holding the camera, but There's two real ways you can do it. You can separate the feathers like this. Typically you want to push up and then spread out. Now you can't really see underneath of my hand, but I can see her skin a little bit. So it takes a little while to check for this, but you can either do that, or on birds with thinner feathers you can just blow and the feathers will separate usually, and you can see the skin. It's a little hard to demonstrate that, but it's kind of like, and then the feathers will move. But see, now I just messed her feathers up a little bit. I usually fix her feathers when I'm done checking for that. You just want to go up and down, mostly her back, down around where her legs are, like the thighs, and in the front a little bit. Alright, we're getting there. She doesn't like this very much. Then you want to check their legs, if she'll let me see her legs. They shouldn't be really swollen, especially around the joints. Now, she's a big bird. She was probably our heaviest one. So, she has some pretty big legs, as you can see. There shouldn't be, the scales on their legs shouldn't be lifting up very much at all, really. So those are some pretty healthy legs right there. You can see around this joint, it looks a little swollen, but not really. If their joints are a little swollen, it's probably because they're overstressing their legs. So you want to make sure that their perches are either not too high up, 1 or 2 feet, or that there's soft bedding on the ground so that they don't stress their legs. That works the best. Alright, well, she's going to hop off. I was holding her. You want to make sure that you have good control, but I know she's a pretty calm chicken, so I can catch her in a minute. Next, you want to look at the nails. As you can see, as she's moving, her nails and feet are just in a nice posture. She's not limping at all. And her nails aren't like beneath her foot line, so it's easy for her to walk. So her nails don't need to be clipped. Typically, if the nails are bent, I don't know if she'll let me get too close to her feet, but if the nails are bent too much, like right there, that's about a healthy nail. But you don't want them to be curving down so that they're walking on the tips of their nails. And you don't want the ends of their nails to split, so I'll probably need to cut hers in about a week. You don't want to cut them too low because they live to naturally scratch the ground, and ours are free range, so they need to be able to get to the bugs and dirt. And then the last thing I'm going to check for before we move on to lice and mites is her vent, to make sure that it's a healthy vent is going to be moist. There's not going to be dried blood or cuts or anything. So, I'm just gonna... Chickens don't like this very much, so it might take me a minute to get there. Normally, I would hold her with one arm, like around her, and then you can just like lift, like tuck her underneath of an arm and like against your body. Like this, sort of. I don't know how well you can see that. And then you can use the other hand to lift the feathers. But my other hand's holding the camera, so that's a little hard to do. So I'm going to tuck her in between my legs, just like this. Don't squeeze. Just make sure that she's comfortably in there. Then you want to lift the tail feathers up. Now, on a lot of chickens, this is really easy to check for. But she has like a lot of feathers, so I kind of have to find the vent. Now I can see that it's right down in here, and it's just like a nice small opening. There is some poo around it, so I'll have to clean that off. But it's moist and it looks pretty healthy. You can see it pulsing. So I'll just wipe the poo off in a little bit. Just a nice warm paper towel that's wet works best. You don't want to tug too much because that'll hurt. You just want to like wipe it off and make sure it looks good. So that's basically all I'm going to check for. And then next, you just want to get their wings. They hate this the most. It's the hardest thing I find. Especially on a chicken like this to check for lice, because lice are this color. But you want to very, very gently spread the wing out. You don't want to move it up because you can break their wing. Just spread it out like this. And then the base shaft, now she's going to tug it away. But you want to look in the shafts right in here. And that's where you'll find mite eggs. They'll be an off-white. Now she doesn't have any. But they'll be very easy to detect if they're there. And then you also want to go up farther towards her shoulder. And now she's hard to check because she has so many feathers up here. But right in here, you're going to be able to see if there are any, which she doesn't have any. You just want to pull those feathers back, and there would be very pure white colored eggs along the base of the shaft. And those would be lice eggs. So that's basically how you know if your chicken's healthy. She's a good one.